we are expecting a few more faces at least, and send someone outside, let's see. Otherwise, I think poetry is heard and enjoyed by very few. So that's also right and fitting in that sense. We have here a poet and novelist from Hungary. He is Gabor Lanczkor, and he has been translated, his poems have been translated by Professor Rabindra Bhavan, who was surprised for. And now this is a coming together of the poet and the translator. And I'm happy to say that Sahitya Akademi has been active in publishing also books from Hungary. So we have, as early as 1974, Vara Hungary Kahania, translated by three names in India, and Rabindra Bhavan, 1974. And again in Hindi, Hungary Kavita, translated by Rabindra Bhavan. That was in 1989. So as early as 1974, we have this literary exchange between Hungary and Sahitya Akademi. And speaking of the Hungarian presence in the field of art and films, you see, very recently I was in Kerala, in my home state. Kochi is its a big art show installation. There were 5 Hungarian artists, 2 of them poets, and their poetry video. And also, I'm sure that you must have all heard of Nicholas Jansu and his friends. These are great masters of film. And again, the Kerala, I have to bring Kerala here again because in Kerala, every year there is an international film festival of Kerala. Most of these, great names from Hungarian films have been there as festival directors, members. But I'm not so sure about Bengal being a host of such great names. So we have here a Hungarian who has achieved much. He began writing in 2006, and by 2016 he has 10 books, won 15 awards. It's a great pleasure to introduce Gabor Lanczkor here. Briefly introduce him, avoiding the Hungarian names. I don't want to bore you with the wrong pronunciation of Hungarian titles and names. So Gabor Lanczkor, a Hungarian poet, novelist, and writer, literary translator, was born in 1981. In 1999, he graduated from high school in Sombatli. I won't read out the name of the school, which I can't. He graduated from Etfos Laurent University. Meanwhile, he continued his studies in Rome and Ljubljana, and in 2007, he continued his studies in London. Between 2007 and 2010, he studied in the University of Szeged, from the Faculty of Humanities, he received his PhD in Tibetan literature. The first volume of his poetry came out in 2005, titled Pure Racing. And it was connected to the circle of the great poet, Angela Joseph. And in 2006, this book was awarded the best poetry. And this is the second book of poetry, White Song book, is published on the internet before. In 2007, he published a book of, this is not very clear, third volume of poetry, Back to London, same year, he won Junior Prima Award for Louis George and Zygmunt Maurice Zygmunt Scholarship Award. In 2014, he won a literary scholarship. And then, 2015, his book Caravaggio was won the Salvatore Cosimo Award. Yeah, and he has a novel in 2016, and the title of the novel is
2016?
yeah. Anyway, yeah, the Hungarian novel is the title of the novel. It's a Hungarian novel is the title of the novel. Yeah. So, title a Hungarian novel. Yeah. So he has 9 published works in 10 years, 3 translations, and 15 awards and recognitions in 10 years. It's quite an achievement, and I would like to cordially welcome you, sir. And next, I have to introduce you. Yeah. So, in Sahitya Akademi, instead of flowers, bouquet of flowers, you will probably use a bouquet of books. So, Professor Rita Malhotra is a professor of mathematics, and how mathematics and poetry goes together, anyone together in mathematics and music goes very well together. And in the South, you know, for Northern is the timing. So mathematics is very much there. Former principal of Tamil College, University of Delhi, Dr. Rita Malhotra is a mathematician, poet, essayist, poetry critic and translator. He's founder president Poetry Across Cultures and World Poetry Ambassador to India, appointed by World Poetry City of Richmond, Canada. A PhD from the University of Delhi, she has been a postdoctoral fellow in mathematics at the University of Paris. Dr. Malhotra has published 2 books of mathematics and 8 books of verse, and has received several international recognitions for poetry, culture, and education. Malhotra's literary and poetic works are published in literary journals in India and abroad and have been translated into Chinese, Romanian, Serbian, Spanish, Japanese, Turkish, French, Hindi, Bengali, Telugu, and Hungarian. She has been an invited delegate to writers' conferences and poetry meets in several of the above-mentioned countries. Some recognitions received by Dr. Malhotra are Writers International Network Canada awarded the Distinguished Visionary Poet Award to Dr. Malhotra in 2013. Dr. Malhotra was honored by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Romania for outstanding merit in promoting Romanian and universal values in international relations since 2012. She was awarded the World Poetry Almanac Award for her special contribution to world poetry in August 2012 by WPA, Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. She is the recipient of World Poetry International Festival Award by World Poetry Canada in 2011. The International Poets Academy, Chennai, conferred upon her the Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in World Poetry in 2009. The Best Promoter Award of Indo-Romanian Relations in the Field of Culture in 2008, awarded by the Embassy of Romania in India. She was awarded the 2003 Michael Masudan Millennium Award for Poetry and Education. She was the only Indian invited delegate for the prestigious International Poets Meet in September 2014, held in Sibiu, Romania, which has earned the distinction of being the European Culture Capital in 2007. So I welcome both of you, and now I invite, according to the program what I proposed, Gabor lines book. And before that, let me my incoherent rumblings about the poet and the poetry from this Wikipedia page was not very good. So I'll read something coherent. Gabor Lanczkor's poems represent a uniquely unfledged, intriguing way of approaching artistic traditions and geographies, contemporary and ancient, human and non-human. The Hungarian poet's themes range from psychedelic prosody of love and darkling austerity of reimagined Greek myths to the widely unconventional literary recreation of intimate vision of the Indo-Hungarian painter Rabindra Bhavan and the Spanish Francisco Goya's black paintings. American poet and essayist Jeremy Farrow and prominent Indian translators and poets Rita Malhotra, Terry Verma and Ashwini Kumar have collaborated on this English anthology of Lanczkor poems.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the kind invitation. I'm really happy to be here, especially as it was mentioned, I think, that with Professor Malhotra we met actually in this room. So this is the beginning of the story of this book. So I would just speak very briefly about the concept of the selection. As here it says selected poems. So far I have 4 published poetry volumes in Hungary, but this book contains some of my poems which were not published in the book yet. They were published in periodicals, but they will be in my selected and new poems, which is to publish the next year in Hungarian. And it will be, I think, the most ambitious poetry work of mine so far. So, this book titled Sound of the Sea, it was, we had a book launch just last week in Bombay. It was published by Paper Wolf Media. It contains 4 sections or 4 cycles, as we would say. The first one is titled Table, and it contains mostly new poems, which I haven't published yet in the book in Hungary. These are separate poems, I should say. As the second section or chapter, it is titled Goya's Death House, and it contains a whole cycle which I wrote about the so-called black paintings about the great Romantic era Spanish painter Francisco Goya. The third section is titled Sound Odyssey, so this is from where the very title of the book is taken. And here I've tried to put together the motifs taken from Homer's Odyssey with kind of terminology of Marxism or workers' movement. As it is done, everyone should decide that is this either an ironic way or tragic or even pathetic. I leave this open. Yes. And the fourth section is titled Coins for Amrita, and it contains my poems about the works and life of our common hero, Amrita Shetty, the Indo-Hungarian painter. Yes.
As Gabor said, he's celebrating an anniversary. We had met right here. I was sitting in Rumi's place and Gabor was here, and that's how all this began. And translating, and we have such an August gathering, so you would all know that it is poetry is notoriously, I would say, resistant to translation. And with Gabor's poems, because I could not have a face-to-face, he had left the country when we were working on this, but yes, I took some help from Professor Mario, who teaches Hungarian at the University of Delhi, and it was only when I had done some of his first few poems and she approved, and then I went ahead with them. What I thought is just 2-3 things I have to mention, that many of his poems are very conceptual, and therefore, more resistant to translation, and the translator is never sure whether she's doing the right thing. But then I said, okay, let me give myself the freedom to my way. And finally, I did send all the poems to him. I mailed them, and it was. I also gave Gabor. Of course, he is the poet, the original poet. So I said, you could, anywhere you feel like editing, you could do them, and then the final shape came. Now, 2-3 things I would just like to mention. Even though I have not done the Goya section, that is the section that has impressed me most, where he referred to the black painting, because Goya was deaf, and when he wrote these poems, I still feel that there's no unifying concept. It's an enigma, and art critics have said that maybe there's some psychological and sociological aspects behind these this thing, because they are quite a few of them, most of them I would say. That's why perhaps they're called black paintings, that they are very depressing. But how he has interpreted some of the poems, it was difficult for me even to identify. So I was saying, okay, that painting is perhaps this poetry. So those ones impressed me the most. The ones that I have been associated with was the Amrita Shaded section, which is more of a narrative kind of thing. But there's a very rich texture to his poems. And also I would say that to capture the sound and sense of one poet's poems, and also to trace the imagination of one human to another, it was a challenging task. But luckily, because I'm not very conversant with Hungarian, I'm associated with Hungarian poetry in a big way, and I have my essay on Hungarian poets and I have my favorites. That's a different thing. But still, I have to work very hard. So I can imagine, if I had to do it from Hungarian to English, it would be a tough job. And the wide range, of course, he has mentioned before. One thing I wanted to also see, that when I say the poems are conceptual, you always get a glimpse of, very heavy philosophical and aesthetic implications in the poem. So that also kind of, remained with me, and the similes or the metaphors, they are classic, I would say, because they're very striking. And so I think, having said that, I would request, it is his day and his words.
So we decided with Rita, as the first and fourth section is mostly her work, that reading from those parts I will leave left to her. So let me start with Goya's Dead House. On the lower floor, a woman in a plain black dress, a black veil on her face. What they build at night falls during the day. What they build on Wednesday for Thursday. 12 bricklayers, all set. Whomever's wife brings lunch first, they take and cut her throat, burn her body, and her ashes are mixed into the lime. Basket on, she arrives with lunch, east, and the short Toledo blade, and into the fire, and her ashes into the lime. And what he builds that Thursday will stay, but it had already fallen on Wednesday for love. On the upper floor, they are all here. Between 1820 and 1823, Francisco Goya painted the two largest rooms of his house. The two-story villa stood on the bank of the river Manzanares, near Madrid. He purchased it on the 27th of February, 1819. In 1824, he left Spain for good. Before, the frescoes were transferred to canvas, photographs of them were taken between 1863 and 1867. In 1881, once they had been transferred to canvas, the Spanish government received them as a gift from the French baron His property, the house, had become in the meantime. He demolished it in order to build another in its place. The black paintings, his name was given to them later. They were also titled individually, 14 paintings. They are all here in this photograph in the bushy shade of the cliffs. 77 policemen, 12 deflators. Upper floor. Clubs swing in their hands, 2 men knee deep in the ground oppose one another. He stole a foal and 7 cows, sold them at the fair. In their place, he bought a foal and 7 cows. While herding them on the field, there before him stood 9 policemen. Proof. Wait a bit, I'll show you. Reaches under his coat, and his revolver drops into his hand. Shoots one in the head. Doesn't survive him for long. He deserves it, and none of them knows why. Lower floor, which is Sabbath, the great black billboard. Walked across the field in the afternoon, face down. A white lamp appeared before her. Don't fret, the army of virgins needs her. He would take her to the heavenly courts, to be one amongst the virgin saints. As he finished speaking, he turned himself into a black goat, laid down there on the stubble. And the girl at his side laid her head on his hairy neck. As it became dark, they surrounded them. How they struggled to carry the big goat and her too. They could hardly stand. They are happier than 2 bad news. Later, they recovered. No virgin, saint. Lower floor. Cuts the head off her sleeping lover. If one of us should do that which never should be done, impossible, then you or me. Yet, in a way that only a woman could do such a thing. This I have written before. And of course, yes, me, and you too, and you know, and I know. While I am asleep, the fingers of your left hand grasp my hair gently, to trade sexes. The fingers of my left hand grasp your hair. And 2 short ones. Lower floor. All together they march screaming or singing through the shady hills. Deliver us from the death penalty. Amen. Upper floor. He is reading, white-bearded. It's not here. The great block of tufa jutting from the deeps of Mont Chartres crater. Behind it, I buried the song standing here. Okay, so this was the second chapter. Now from the third one, this is the title Sandals. Yes, first section. We proceed. The sail stretched, and I won't deny, I felt sympathy for the ideas of socialism. But when our ark left the swift waves of Oceanus, we landed on the island of Ea illegally. Our loved ones did not know whether we lived or rested in the bellies of fish here and there, behold gods out of the bushes. The sun steps to the sky from here. He keeps his house on this island and his dance floors. We made our offerings for him, burned the unburied dead, drank a lot of wine tasting like honey. Revolution, revolutionary proletariat, overthrowing the civilian rule of the bourgeois, to extract the one-time taste of freedom from the days of past. I saw the sirens in advance. Early in the morning we set out for the abyss of the water. The wide sea waved beyond the broken relay. I whispered backs into the ears of my partners. A partner. To have a partner in our principles, he heard the unmoored one. A hatch open to the light became his cave. The solidarity of hollow folds open to light shriek from his throat. Solidarity for us, sacrificial sheep. He cried and screamed, we heard. Never give up the means of illegal warfare, but fight constantly for complete legality. He barked up more, go home. By the end of autumn, the north wind carries dyed milk vetch through the karstic bush forests of junipers. As capricious winds threw our ship here and there among wave crests in the strait, we sweated sea, horsemen. To save. I heard how the apple tree keeps its many withered leaves. This new-fashioned dictatorship is possessed by the masses that have been exploited up to now, and they exploit the minority that exploited them before. The aim is the complete elimination of exploitation, the soft spring. In a winter storm, all the withered leaves will fall. Sirens use sirens, as if they would like to save me. They survive what kills Zeus. I heard my name resound from their throats, and that it is Christ. Swallow. Something tenaciously whitening on the water. As we got closer, I saw a block of pumice. It has a black speck. As we got closer, a swallow flew to me. I gave him water. I put some cheese in front of him. He got himself together and pissed off. The rest? I remember. All day I walked along the beach, naked. I've been sitting on the beach, naked for 40 days, like a female orgasm, invisible. On the 40th dawn, when the sun rose, my prick pulled back to its set, with the low tide like a sword. The cuttle bone, my beard is sharp and rigid. The high tide is cruel, it drives the nail out of me, wander. Thank you.
I'll just confine myself to the sections that I have done. And sorry, sir.
Excuse me.
Yeah. I was talking
Hello.
about this.
May I request to render some poems about Amrita Shetty?
Yeah.
Yes,
This
she will
is
do
the
that,
section.
because
That's what she
it's
says.
mostly
Okay.
So I'll just begin with, because I mentioned his similes, and I was so impressed with this two-liner. It is called Epitaph. The deer antlers drop on the snow. The deer antlers drop on the snow, an image of a snapped umbilical cord. So this was, very nice, and I felt very nice about the simile. Tulips, a simple word. Their bare green stalks gaze at the sky, daffodils and tulips on the wave, the ground beneath a carpet of yellow and red. So these were two short poems. And now this is a poem called 6 Lines. I was wondering why it is called 6 Lines. And then I noticed the 6 full stops, So it didn't look like a 6-liner. It goes thus, 6 lines. Sexual imagery is so disgusting that if there were no porcelain faces and no inspired urge, nature would perhaps remain bereft of Homo sapiens. Or so I read in Da Vinci's writings. After our first night together, I sat in despair in the library with my rude hangover early next morning and thought that now that I had survived in your company, I would have to pay with my death. Yesternight, your skin and mine, and the 2 new self-evident layers between us replaced the old one. And I did not want it. I held you tight, 2 pure androgynes. You cannot remain mine, nor can I be yours. As we hug ourselves awake, our yesterday steps in. It's a beautiful last line. And this one, which was a little tough for me, I had my own interpretation about it today. I was discussing it. It's called The Table. It's the very first poem of the book. The Table. It refers to the Table Mountain in South Africa, actually, and there is a reference, and connecting was not so easy. I cannot be a humanist. The relics of the myth of Genesis closed into the commissured bone shell of my brain, like the magma of the earth ready to blow out. My hair and beard wave like the ancient sea, grow and wane. The surface of the earth breaks and crusts again with its volcanoes. The 3 of us sat in a rented Fiat, driving from Syracuse to Augusta. A German boy and girl, siblings, invited me to join them in climbing the Etna. I joined them instead of seeing the Santa Lucia of Caravaggio. Syracuse afterwards, we visited it together anyway. But we could not have been humanists. In a room in an Edinburgh hostel, I flipped through a book according to a caption. The Table Mountain in Cape Town provided such an intimate vision for the arriving British sailors, like the trade sign of their heart. I sat in a pub in the docklands of London before the table board of the Table Mountain. How could I be a humanist? I am cruel. Sad relics of the myth of Genesis closed into the commissured bone shell of my brain. This was tough to interpret. And now I'll come to, I think, straight away to Amrita. And I've just chosen maybe 2, and we can have a last poem where he says Amrita died. This I chose for the simple reason it's called Malcolm Journalist, and they were, I think they had a 10-year relationship, and they were very fond of each other. In fact, Malcolm's the portrait that Amrita Shergill made is there in the National Gallery of Art here. Yeah. So this is Malcolm Journalist. I clarified to Amrita that she is still an intellectual virgin. The day before yesterday, we shared lunch in the Cecil. By the end of lunch, her mother appeared at our table, an extraordinarily vibrant Hungarian Jewish woman. They conversed in Hungarian, they went shopping. At 6:45 I bathed, put on my light grey suit and a blue tie, a light shirt, the one that Amrita liked so much. She arrived at 8 in a green sari, woven in gold and red. She spoke in one breath while taking off her heavy Tibetan jewels and letting down her hair under my fascinated male gaze. It was like re-watching a mesmerizing performance of a great play to see her that day. Suddenly fatigued, I coaxed her to return home so as not to anger her mother. She was sad. I felt a cruel gentleness for her. I sat as a model in her studio with her short, quiet breaths, and with her brutal concentration, she watched me. A thin line of perspiration on her pale, dark upper lip. She liked her stay almost wrong. I escorted her home, then walked back, past fragrant pines in the chill of Shimla air. She came to see me off. She walked to and fro on the station platform near the hill train on the narrow gauge. We conversed in French. I waved at her from the window until she disappeared. I knew I would never see her again. Indeed, as I heard later, she died mysteriously in 1941, only 28 years old. I also learned that her mother committed suicide. Neither of these deaths surprised. So that was about the journalist. And I don't know whether I should read this. Maybe I'll read the last one, The Color Is My Domain. So, the last two poems of the book on Amrita. He's covered Amrita from her birthplace to her death. This is called Color Is My Domain. And I think, again, the interpretation I don't know, but I know, we all know Amrita's story. And on her death, her mother blamed her doctor husband, Victor, because of two abortions that he had performed. And because they were not sure as to whose child it is. And somewhere I could relate something to this poem, not about Victor, but the other aspect of Amrita's head. This is called Color Is My Domain. Where the dark crumbled soil of the bare forest passes under the trees with contour lining of drift boulders in the thick forest of Vrindavan, where riverside bushes are woven into a pastoral from broken branches, Amrita collects the torn hair of sheep, then finds a small grass-laden meadow and tranquilly lies down as sleep embraces her. She is awakened by the scream of a peacock. Its patterned plumage spread out in a fan, the bird stands before her. With its bill, it pulls the sari off her thighs. Amri spreads her leg, screams, and gives birth to her only son. Then she chokes and devours him. This was a very strong line, and it hit me, and I had to read it over again before. Last poem, Amrita died. The inordinate use of turpentine and the original underpainting for the one-time matte effect of the light of colors manifest themselves as the surface of the pictures begin to darken and crackle rapidly. After Amrita died, her husband and father left the pictures at the National Gallery of Delhi, where they still find a place in their true painful glory. As color came to be my domain, I truly believe that it is only me that can embrace my colors. Only me, only me.
Now we are throwing open the session for interaction. The audience can ask the poet and translator questions for the next 10 minutes. Or if we need 5 minutes more, we have.
Just until you are thinking about
questions. I should just tell in the name of my publisher that the book is now on Amazon, so
And there they are sort of telling about the paintings which were donated to the National Art Gallery. I left out a line, but they did not donate Victor's poetry that year because they were, is it because they were upset with Victor having performed and they blamed him for her death, but that was not true, I think. So that painting was not donated.
I think I'll begin with a remark or a question. See, he is a poet, novelist, but he is also a painter with poems. You know, his last few poems, that we heard, were verbal poetry. I think it excites me. But is there anything that you want to say to that?
No, I'm not a painter myself. Yes, but you know, as you are all artists here, I guess, so we just have our inspiration. And for me, it's a kind of a strange situation, but for me, so among those very important sources, so there are some painters who I should say influence me more than yeah, also Goya, and this book from which this Goya cycle is taken is titled Back to London, as you mentioned. At that time I was living in London, and so almost every day I went either to the National Gallery or to Tate Modern, so one of the art galleries. And this whole book contains poems which are connected to artworks. So each poem has the title as the title of an artwork, and sometimes the text, which is under the title, has a very distant connection to the painting or sculpture itself. So this was kind of a conceptual work, and later, as I did my PhD, I was working on this genre which is called ekphrasis, and this book was also published in Hungarian. This Amrita Circle was written later, so it was not in this London book. And it was interesting because at the beginning, as I started to work on a project, let me call it project, a book, I never know what will be the end. So actually it was surprising also for me that this Amrita cycle came out, that the texts are more focused on the motives of the artist's life than on the artworks themselves.
The situation of Amrita in Greek text, what about your views? Say something?
About Amrita Ashrafi's death?
Yes.
Well, she was born in Hungary and
Last two poems are some reference.
yeah. Yes, so if you just see her paintings in the National Gallery, you really see that the surface of the painting is paintings are cracked. And I just put it together as so these days in Europe the so-called conceptual art is very much in fashion, and so I just made up this idea that she was somehow the forerunner of this conceptual artist movement, in a way that this color is my domain is a quotation from Amrita Circle. That so I can just quote the poem. I can't tell it more precisely. So I truly believe that it's only me that can embrace my colors. Only me, only me. So actually, as she died, the validity of course this is a gesture, so this is not has to be taken as true, but it is something that in Hungarian sorry? Yeah. So in the Hungarian context, you know, there's a legend that the violinist should be buried with his violin. Or one of our great poets, Endre Ady, from whom there's a motto at one of the poems. It says, "I have come from the banks of the Ganges." And Ady, he was a great poet of the first part of the 20th century in Hungary. And he has one poem where he says that I was the master, the poem was just my slave. And as I die, the slave has to die with me. So in a way, this last poem can be understood from this very specific Hungarian context. But on the other hand, I just really put up as a vision of me as really the forerunner of conceptual art. So the concept is that as she dies, she makes the surface that it just falls down.
If I'm not mistaken, you have written some books, poems on rock and volcano.
Yes, exactly.
So why is that rock, volcano, mountains attracts you so?
Well, near to the place where I grew up, my grandmother is still living there. It's a small village. Actually, I didn't grow up there, but I spent all the summers of my childhood there. So there was it's a dormant volcano which was like cut out for mining basalt. And so as I realized later what happened to this volcano, this extinct volcano or dormant volcano, I just took it as a tragedy, you know. That, not only because this means kind of destroying nature, but I saw these old photographs of beautiful shape, and for me it was a tragedy. And art or poetry, about many things, it can be a very good cue for what it hurts.
And what is your political philosophy? You seem to be Marxist and socialist, or sometimes I'm not.
I don't have a good kind of philosophy behind this. No, I took this cycle as a collage, if you know the meaning of this word. So just to match together some, like a clash, you know, that to match together some things which are not supposed to be together, but somehow, you know, so this cycle is based on the that part of the Odyssey, if you know the word, when the ship goes towards the rock of the Sirens, and Odysseus, or Ulysses, maybe Ulysses is the Latin form, yeah? They use Odysseus more, yeah, but in English it's Ulysses. So he puts wax into the ears of his partners, but he wants to hear what are the sirens singing. So he just forces his partners that he should be fixed by ropes. And so he can hear what the sirens are singing, but he cannot move. So he cannot be seduced. And so it was just an imaginary mind. What could he hear? Or there's a writing of Kafka about the same story, where Kafka states that the sirens were silent. And there's another interpretation in 20th century European literature of the story from Giuseppe Tomasi di Lampedusa, who is one of my favorite writers. He was an Italian nobleman, and he wrote only one novel, the Gattopardo, it's the Panther, yeah. which is about his grandfather. Okay, and he says in the short story that the story of this other work, so this short story, it tells about a boy who falls in love with a siren. And he says that the sirens can never die, they survive even Zeus, as these ancient Greek gods died, you know, as Christianity came in Europe. And he interprets this story that this is some mistake at Homer, as the sirens crushed themselves on the rocks. This can be true. So I just have to find out my interpretation, and it was that Ulysses heard the future from the singing of the sirens, and so he heard about Christ, all this big U-turns of European history. So as sorry?
Tennyson's poetry. Tennyson's. Ulysses, at the end he writes, "Could strive to seek and never be eat."
Yeah, but Ulysses by Tennyson.
Yeah, I don't know that poem.
There's a
Yeah,
poem by
check it.
Tennyson about Ulysses. That's how the poem is.
Yeah. So why Ulysses hears about this all these things what happened at the beginning of the 20th century, originated from the end of 19th century, so from the French Revolution, which totally changed the face of Europe, and which led us to the tragedies of the 20th century. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I just have a question on your process of writing poetry. Can you just talk about how do you go about it, like on a day-to-day basis? Do you like do it in a stretch and then take some time off, or how do you go about it?
But I do not only poetry, I'm writing novels and notebooks and children's books, which allows me to concentrate on that thing which I feel that I'm in the mood to do. So I'm a freelancer, I don't have a job or anything. I do only writing, which I think it's... So it was a decision 5 years ago that with my family, and I have 2 little kids, we moved to a village with only 100 people, and then I'm focusing till then only on my literary work. And well, poetry is so there was a year when I didn't write any poetry. That year I was doing some other things, and now, like, so from January on I wrote 10 poems. So it's really different. I just have to catch the wave, you know, and then I write. But when I'm doing it on a daily basis.
So how do you decide which subject is fit for a poem, or when you have to write a novel, or which subject do you do that? How do you decide? Or it just comes for
It just comes. Yeah? I'm collecting motifs, and at prose, like my last novel was based on a news that I found in a newspaper. So I just don't have one method.
Even on how did you kind of collaborate with him? I mean, how did you communicate with him on a daily basis? How was the whole process of translation?
I'm saying that it was such a tough thing, because the day he left, I still remember that red folder with his poems. I carried away, and that time I was into administration. And you know, the VC calling and principals meeting, teachers on strike, we have to do admissions. So I used to wait for the weekend, and it used to come like a breath of fresh air, you know. As thank God at last poetry, and I couldn't communicate so often. So it was not easy, but as I said, that slowly I got into things. And believe me, I had to also read beyond what he's written to to understand some of the things, as I said.
So what was that included?
The Goya's, for example, when you read Goya, we only, okay, Goya's black paintings. But which painting is which one? You know, I actually went through the images and those hideous figures, you know, and I was wondering which one and why did he choose these ones. I think all 14 are not interpreted. I think all 14 are there. Okay, then I have to maybe read it again. I must have missed one. And so that's it. So, but it helped me because I also grew. And translation, as I said, the first section for me was the easiest, where I found my kind of poetry, at least some tulips and daffodils, because otherwise it was very different. So, but the communication remained through email, and I would always send it to him until he approved. You know, I did not, and still I left it to him that the final version, you know, you can edit it when you want. But as I said, that even now I feel that some of them could be improved. Maybe.
Apart from you, has anyone else also?
Yes, yes. That's why I did the last section, many of the poems, the Amrita one and the first one. The second one somebody else has done, not from India.
Yeah, it's Jeremy Farrell.
And the third one was somebody from Mumbai.
Okay.
It's a short section. Even that section is very important.
So I think it's almost time for winding up. We had a rich repast of poetry and painting for an hour now. So what struck me among his fantastic poems, riveting poems, is this funereal note in his Marxist poems. Okay? Now we are living at a time when, you know, the humanism involved in Marxism is to be somehow recovered. But everywhere, all over the world, humanism is being consumed, going to flames. And, you know, looking a little back in history, you remember that, you know, the Hungarian revolt under eminent, which was totally put down, and that marked the beginning of the split in the communist party or the communist thinking ideology here in India at least. And when he writes about the whole thing, about the dream that would have been, you know, that kind of, you know, when he talks about Marxism as something that's lost, that's not even, you know, relevant as an ideology. And, you know, when he between lines you can see the kind of promised element which did not keep, you know, did not survive, for 70 years. This kind of thing is there. And yeah, there's some of the things I want to observe. And the kind of gripping beauty of his Ferozeshah poems, especially the ones I think, you know, lesser crowd is very able to possess things. So these poems which appeal to us, we have discussed, where we have seen the poet has himself very lately come out with the detailed contrast of that. And I thank you for all that. I thank Rabindra for fantastic work, you know, which she has done almost to the newest kind of thing, you know, in such circumstances. Thank you. Result of collaboration, which is, you know, I myself being a poet and translator, I've seen fantastic work that is